A very, very warm welcome to the first in our special series, the Town Hall. This is a live event where we bring the biggest newsmakers from different walks of life, from cinema, from politics, from sports, face to face with a live audience, because we do believe that has an energy that other audiences don't. This is, of course, an inaugural event of our independent company called Mojo. For those of you who may think Mojo means mobile journalism, actually it doesn't. Mojo means magic, a magic charm, a talisman, a hex. And so on this program today, I have somebody in my inaugural town hall who I believe is going to be my magic charm. Please put your hands together to welcome a man of many parts, director, author, producer, and outspoken commentator who often lands in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. But we're going to start with something happier. How is fatherhood and single fatherhood treating you? Tell us a little bit about the kids and how difficult was it for you to make this choice of being a single father. It's a very, very unconventional choice, even now, for the country we live in.
I don't know how exactly to answer that question, Varkha, because there is so much that I have to say, and yet it doesn't amount to very much in comparison to what you feel.
Yeah.
So I have to say it's been overwhelming. It was initially daunting, and there was a lot of fear whether I was taking the right step and I was making the right decision. But I have to say that it's been a little bit of a turbulent ride because they were born 2 months premature. So the time that I found out that they were born, and then when I visited the NICU and I held them, and it's a beginning of an altogether different kind of love story. I don't know how to explain it beyond that.
Is it better than all the sort of cheesy love stories you've told us about on the big screen?
I mean, nothing matches. Really, nothing matches to the love of your children. And I can't still believe they do a lot of sleeping and I do a lot of staring. Because I can't believe that they're mine. And I can't believe that this is going to be like the best phase of my life. I don't know. For me and my mom, it's been the most emotionally overwhelming time, and in a really good way. And I've been on paternity leave. I haven't been to work in a month. I believe the corporates give you only a week
for paternity
leave.
Yeah.
I've already given myself a month, but then I'm a proprietor, so I'm allowed that, I think.
But on maternity leave, we've just got a new legislation that actually gives much longer leave to women.
6 months.
Yeah. Would you make a case for men to get the same leave?
Well, men in my situation would need that much time because I have a whole different energy in the house. I'm coordinating between 4 Malayalam nurses, my mother, me, the rest of the house, and we're just dancing. And to me, they're like 2 superstars. I'm just staring at. Every time they do anything, it's a big thing.
But when you have a granny at home, you don't need the nanny, right?
No, you do. You need them all. Your granny is nearly 75 years old. You need all the help you get. And I really have taken advice from and it's amazing how much advice is given from so many mothers, and from which formula milk to how you should burp them to what you should do with them. It's amazing. Everybody has a different theory on how to bring up your child. Eventually, I think you have to find your own path. And I think I have in my own way.
You're a single dad.
Yeah.
You had your children through surrogacy.
Yes.
When you decided that you were going to do this, was it difficult? Was there any element of log kya kahenge? Because people do say stupid things to you. They say them on social media. They say them off social media. We've changed as a country, but probably we haven't changed enough yet. Was it a tough choice, and has anybody said something stupid to you after this?
Oh, many people will have things to say. Luckily, social media gets you the strength to kind of combat any circumstance.
It's baptism by fire,
yes,
isn't
I mean,
it? Yeah.
Literally. And you're trolled to death, and so now you're amused with everyone's opinions now about your life. I was never afraid, and I never care about log kya kahenge.
I think that's fantastic. I think we should applaud in some ways.
And I always feel that there is a line in a Hindi film song that says कि कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. So I mean, you have to just listen to what people say and just be amused by their ridiculous opinions on your life. My life is my decision, is my responsibility, and I've taken it. And I really don't care what anybody else thinks. The only opinion that mattered to me was my mother's and my ability to nurture these children and give them a great life.
How did she react?
She was just, she's been the most amazing strength and support to me. From the time that, I decided that I was going to do this to the time that I went through with it. And every beat of the way, she's been standing tall with me. And I don't think I would have been able to do it without her strength and support.
I do have to ask you this because there's an ongoing debate debate in this country on surrogacy. It's a grey area in the law. We don't yet have legislation, but there are proposals to make it much tougher. There is a suggestion that people should be encouraged to adopt rather than biologically produce. I know it's a deeply personal choice, but you have mercifully managed to do this before the law actually changes.
Right.
Did you think about that? I mean, did you wrestle with that a little bit, because it is
with adoption versus surrogacy,
yeah.
but it wasn't an option because adoption is not legal
for single
for
fathers.
single fathers. Yeah, so for me it was not an option at all. I had to go down the path of surrogacy, so there was no question of choosing between two situations. It was really what was legally allowed for me to do. And you know, Barkha, there is so much talk about, like, you know, there's been too much discussion about, you know, like, this is new, this is unusual for a man. It speaks about his choices, his orientation, and so much is discussed. Eventually, it has to be an emotional decision. It has to be what you feel is right for you. And if you have the ability, the infrastructure, and the resources, then I think it should be allowed to.
But it's a brave decision.
You know, everybody else calls it brave. I call it individualistic. And if that individualistic is brave, then so be it. I've never looked at it as an act of bravery.
Now, you brought up this word orientation. It's a word that gets thrown at you a lot when people talk about your sexual orientation. And in your book,
right.
And I think Poonam is here somewhere. Poonam, where's Poonam? Poonam is somewhere, your co-author of your book. Okay, there's Poonam. So Poonam Saxena is, of course, a senior journalist and the co-author of Karan's book. In the book, you've actually been very, very candid, and you've actually said, everyone knows what my sexual orientation is. I just don't say those 3 words because I could be jailed for them. That's as good as saying you're gay.
It could be, and I will still not say it because I don't want to be the big part of my life to amount to a headline. And I really don't want it. So I won't say it. Everybody knows it, believes it, thinks it. It's entirely their prerogative. I'm not going to go and make that sweeping headline for, you know, it to remain just that, a headline. Because it's my personal life. It's my prerogative. And if I feel like sharing those 3 words, if and when the time is right, I will. And when I said that...
Is the law a problem? Is the fact that it is criminalized in this country part of the problem?
To say it is not actually. I have to correct that. Because when I said that, it was part of the candor.
Yeah.
You know, that I was... Of course, you don't get jailed for saying it. Even I know that.
Yeah.
And there was criticism. There were so many activists that, you know, started writing blogs against, you know, what I was trying to say and that how I'm, you know, stopping people. But I'm like, I've done enough for the community and much more than many, many activists have. I believe it. Even if
for the LGBTQ community.
And I feel like whether it's through my words or through my work, and even when they thought I was caricaturizing it in a film like Dostana, which has come out to criticism, I felt that at least I brought up the topic in a drawing room, like, you know, where there were homes that didn't even understand the concept. At least it was brought to the table. I believe that strongly. Now it's a point of opinion. You know, others could look at it in a different way. And, you know, if you have an opinion, you must exercise it. But I believe that I have done enough, and not because I'm an activist or I want to be somebody like, you know, who's pushing the cause. Because I believe on a humanitarian level, you have to be given the freedom of choice. And I feel very strongly about that. Be it whether you're homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, asexual, it should not be a point of law in your life. It should be a point of reality.
But I was going to ask you that, you know, when you say this is personal to me, and I'm not going to talk about my personal life so that I can give you, Barkha, or anybody else in this room a headline, I take that point. But I've also seen friends, people I respect, saying that if famous people come out and say those 3 words, it helps others who are not so famous to come out and be comfortable with their sexuality. So I do remember Vikram Seth, for example, when we were all running this big campaign to decriminalize homosexuality, he said to me in an interview, he said, I'm gay, or at least partly gay. Like, he was basically saying, I'm ambivalent about my sexuality. So how do you deal with those who say that, listen, Karan, you're not just Karan, you the individual, you are Karan, this public figure, and it would help other people if you came, you have pretty much embraced it. Why is that last mile something you wait for? Those 3 words are the only 3 words you haven't said. You've said everything else.
Yeah, because I really believe when the time is right, those 3 words, if they need to, will happen. And I don't feel that's coming in the way of me being an inspiration to many who need to come out or talk about their orientation with their families, because enough available information is there about what my thought about this matter is. So I feel just those 3 words can't be a reason that's really stopping the eventual end product of what people are saying that I'm not doing. I think that if there are people who, if they read my book, which is now a closed, you know, they say your life is an open book. Mine is now officially a closed book, thanks to Poonam. And there's enough information about my life, my choices, for anyone to kind of seek any inspiration, if at all, that I'm not claiming to be some kind of an icon or an idol. I don't want to be. I'm just living my life in the way I know best. And in that journey, in that process, if it's been a point of inspiration to some, I would be very happy.
So, you know, you get trolled mercilessly, probably as badly as I do. What are some of the rudest things you've heard about yourself? And are a lot of them related to your perceived sexuality?
Yes, completely.
What
I
are
mean,
the
I
kind of
can't
things you
even,
wake up to?
I can't use the kind of language that is addressed to
By
me.
innuendo, you can tell us.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything, you know. Firstly, everyone has their, you know, you're called everything, like wake up eunuch. Like I've read that as well, you know, like, you know, it's not, firstly, there's a difference. Even if you think I'm gay, I'm not a eunuch. That's a different thing. So you must respect even that.
Yeah.
Of course, forget about that. You know, you're called
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
things. And this is just one of the 1,000 tweets that you wake up with. So all the kind of bad language you can think of is addressed and thrown at you. And if you say anything, if you applaud another lead actor, then they'll insinuate that you want to sleep with him. You know, if you say that man is really good in a film, then it's like, oh, are you interested in him sexually? So there's almost nothing that you can say or do that will not have a sexual ramification according to the trollers. And it's all amounts to who they believe, what they believe your orientation is. And they're looking at it in the most regressive way and in the most, like I would say in the most guttural way sometimes.
Do you react?
No, sometimes I'll have a joke to crack. I'll say it like, you know, like when somebody says that, you know, can you like cast me and I'm willing to give myself to you for it and I, you know, launch me, and I was like, shove the missile up your ass. That's what I wrote. And I'm like, if you want to really be launched, you know. So I mean, once in a while I'll say stupid things like this when I'm amused and I'm bored.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm really, most of the time I think I'm in a glorious place of indifference, and indifference is such a fantastic place to be.
It's a very empowering place to be in.
Detachment and indifference are luxuries. It's like almost like going into a spa.
I think people there wanting to clap, we feel free to clap if you do agree with something or like it. There's this hilarious account in the book, and you've recounted it for some audiences, but I think this audience does need to hear this, and then we'll move on to other subjects. That you're once at an airport, and there is a person who comes up to you and says, he's there with his wife, and he says, "Are you a homo?" And you say what?
First I said it is not a homo, a gay. He said, are you a gay?
Okay.
So I said, you're not a gay. You're either gay or you're not. So I said, first I have to correct you. I'm not a gay, if that's the question. First, you have
But that's what he said. That's why I said.
I just looked and I was like, are you interested? And he didn't get it. He didn't get it. He's probably not getting it at all.
And what did his wife say when you said this to him?
She wanted a solfie, she said.
You're being a snob.
No, I'm telling you.
You're making fun of her accent. That's not the point.
You asked me what she said.
Yeah.
I repeated verbatim. I'm not being a snob.
So she did not understand when you said to this gentleman, are you interested in me?
She said no. She said, give me a solfie. That's what I did. We solfied.
And did you solfie?
Yes, of course we solfied.
All three of you or only you
all
and the wife?
We were in a glorious solfie together.
Humor is one way of dealing with this. But humor gets you...
There is no other way, Barkha.
Doesn't it get you into trouble sometimes?
But sometimes it's okay. But if you're not landing yourself into trouble, then you're doing something wrong.
I agree with that.
If
you're playing it too safe.
If you're always going to live by the book, you're going to die by the book, and that's no way to die.
Let's talk about a little more serious trouble, because I agree with you that it's for you to define how you interact or interface with your sexuality, when you want to tell people about it, how much you want to tell them. But this moment, and you've written about this a little bit, this moment when you have a film, it has a Pakistani actor, there's been the Uri terror attacks, there's that whole backdrop. You initially, and I remember this because you said it to me, you initially said, how does it help terrorism if we remove these people? Then the pressure increases, the mood in the country changes, you feel a little out of sync with the popular mood. You do a video apology. And later, you realize that you're actually not comfortable with that video apology either, that you were maybe too apologetic, too craven, too not yourself. Walk me through how you look back at all of that now.
See, I mean, I would like not to walk through because those were tough times, but since you insist.
You have written about it, which is why I asked.
And I think that it was not fun for me, to go
Which
through
part?
that circle.
All of it?
Initially, it was like I was making a film, I was telling a story, you know, and just to be politically correct, when I had cast that film, there was no problem.
Right.
In
It
fact,
was much earlier.
there was amicable relationships between two countries, and it was all shot and ready. Now it's a film, it's a studio-funded film. I'm responsible to over 200 people, including a studio that's funded the film. Now there's this big problem that's risen, and everybody has an opinion. You're a vulnerable, soft target. You're hearing all kinds of opinions from legal teams, from politicians, from from everyone in your office, in your studio, in other people's studios. Everyone's calling you, they're saying there'll be film will be banned, it will not release. That kind of loss the studio will incur. There's their pressure, there's your accountability. All of that leads you to do that video that when I look back, and if you ask me, would I do it again? If I was in a similar circumstance, perhaps I would have had to do it again. Am I happy about it? Not at all. I felt weak. I felt spineless. I felt annoyed. I felt angry. I still am. While talking about it, I take back to that moment when I sat there and everybody called it a hostage video. There was an invisible gun on my head in a certain sense, and I'm not blaming anyone but myself. And will I apologize for the apology video? I don't know. But I am definitely not going to look back that with any amount of pride. There's a lot of regret there.
You feel spineless.
I felt very spineless because it wasn't my ethos, it wasn't my way of thinking. It's not what I believe. That as an artist, I don't have that belief about other artists in the world. And I have those opinions, and whether you call it left-wing or right-wing or progressive or regressive, that's entirely your opinion. But to me, I felt like a spineless but vulnerable filmmaker at that time, and that is not who I am, because that's the one thing that I was given by my parenting, is a solid spine, where I should stand up for and believe. But at a certain circumstance, you're caught between forces, and you don't know what to do. And I'm not beyond that.
We're all human. We've all done things that we feel embarrassed of. Yeah.
It's not even a human error, it was a human circumstance. And when I look at that video, I can't believe that I did what I did. And I'm yet telling you that if I've gone through the similar situation and it was heading towards an extreme circumstance, I may have to do something like that again. Would I believe it? Would I still be considered spineless? Perhaps.
So you feel a certain degree of self-loathing is what I'm sensing for having done it.
I'm very upset about myself. I'm very upset that I had to do it. But, you know, I would rather not justify it to you and say that, you know,
no, I'm
these
not
are the
asking you to
reasons.
justify, I'm trying to understand it.
There is no justification to what I had to do. I did it and it's done. And now, if you think it's wrong, then that's your opinion and you're entitled to it, because I believed I felt wrong myself.
No, but you know, there's a bigger question in it. Like when I compare the industry here to the West, for example, you have, you know, people from George Clooney to Meryl Streep, you know, taking extremely strong, when I say political positions, I mean political in the widest sense. I don't mean party politics, right? They're very outspoken to the extent that even the Oscars or the Golden Globes become like this political moment. And the contrast here is pretty startling. And when there are people like you, or in the past, a Shah Rukh Khan, or even an Amir, who have tried to articulate a nuanced position. I'm not even saying it's you know, pro or anti. It's just a nuanced, complex set of arguments you put out there. You come under this enormous pressure. And more often than not, most people either backpedal, or then they just say, listen, like, we don't want to speak about this at all. So do you feel that there's something peculiar here, that you can't be outspoken or you can't be yourselves in the way that a Clooney or a Meryl Streep can?
Of course you can't.
What's the difference? What is the difference?
Do you know, for little things, how many FIRs I'm combating on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis?
How many FIRs you have right now?
So many. But the company, I don't even have a record of it. We have an entire legal team that's set up for things that, you know, we can't believe. That, you know, we had the national anthem issue with K3G.
Yeah.
In My Name is Khan, there were a couple of them. Even on Student of the Year, there was on the Radha song, there were FIRs. Then, of course, on Air
Radha
Dilemma,
likes to party.
Yeah, Radha.
There's an FIR?
I'm not saying anything.
I said it.
You can dance to it, sing it, you can do what you want. I'm just telling you the status of what happened. So, in any given, I'm supposed to be this frivolous filmmaker who makes NRI-friendly films about first world problems. I'm not supposed to be combating these issues, but yes, I am. That's the reality. So, I mean, if you're asking me that will I be able to be honest on any platform? No, I don't want to be. I don't want to say politically incorrect things, because I will land myself up into trouble, and then an entire infrastructure will be working to kind of support my cause, and I won't be able to make what I do, is make movies, tell stories. And I don't want to be, I'm not claiming to be, I'm not a social commentator. You called me that. I'm not an activist. I'll say what I have to about my life, about my theories and my thoughts about my personal life. Yeah. But am I going to comment on the politics of this country? I would rather not.
Okay, remember, we are going to be taking your questions as well. You can hashtag what you're hearing using the hashtag Townhall. This is the Townhall in association with Business World, our partners. They're also tweeting. Please feel free to tweet using the hashtag Townhall, and we're coming to your questions in a moment. Kangana Ranaut. You said no politics, so I moved on. What is tougher to answer, politics or questions about Kangana?
I'm happy to answer about Kangana.
All right, let's get started. Were you being a nepotist sexist on your show?
I was not at all. I was being like, I felt I was attacked. She was the missile and I was the target. I was not being nepotistic or sexist. I was just being like, I was like, okay, she has her opinion. She's giving her thoughts. She clearly learned those 12 lines and came, and it was wonderful.
Not fair. Let's see it from her point of view. We have a lot of women who are going to disagree. And we will give you a chance.
No, I'm not saying she didn't. Even I learn lines when I come to an interview. I'm not saying it as a criticism. We all have thoughts.
What are the lines you mugged up for this interview?
Many of them. You just haven't realized it. It has an art to that as well. But I want to tell you, she had an opinion. She's an exceptional talent. And I'm saying, I've always said that. She's an exceptional talent. She has opinions. She said it. She said it. And then a week or 2 weeks later, I was given a platform and I said what I had to. Because clearly, I don't know what to say to what she meant and why she took off on me. Whereas I've never ever crossed paths with her beyond here and there. And I think she decided to choose me to kind of, make her point, which is fine.
But for a moment, let's look at it from her point of view. She is entirely self-made. She has no sugar daddies. She has no benefactors. She comes from
So
Simla.
what should we do?
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
I
it.
am appreciating it.
She did not have it as easy as you had.
How do you know I've had it easy? That's my problem. My problem is I am just dying to be an underdog. I'm like, God, make me an underdog one day, whereas I am given credit for something that I go through. Just because there's a perception of me, I'm never given any credit for what I say or do. But she has gone through this, and so we have to all applaud her struggle,
so
her
let's be calm. Let's be calm.
I'm very calm.
Let's be calm. Be calm. Let me complete my question.
I'm a fan of Kangana's, I want to say.
So am I.
Yes, we saw your interview.
Yes, I am a fan, and I'll tell you why.
A bona fide one,
I'll tell you why.
Yes, tell.
Because I think the journey from her having taught herself English, sleeping on the pavements, totally self-made, taking on this kind of vilification that only happens to women. Now, when she's sitting on your show and she says that, she brings out the whole nepotist skeleton out of the cupboard, was she being wrong? And why did you say something like, if you don't like it, he'll leave? That's like people tell us, go to Pakistan if you think this. Weren't you being a little bit
like if you have so many issues, you are hating everything around you, and you're still going on to the beats of your life. I gave her an option, like she gave me. I gave her an option. I said, please, if you have a problem.
Do you regret how you spoke?
Not at all. Not at all. And I have no regrets about things I say. I've told you. I firmly believe she's an exceptional talent, but I just said that. And now everything I say today is going to again go back into this nepotistic, whatever, into whirlpool. And I wanted to end it because I swear we used to have a national bird, and now we have a national word. It's called nepotism. I mean, I can't bear it. It just tracks me. And when did I become the brand ambassador of this word? There is so many people who are nepotistic in their lives.
But you're a powerful epicenter of the film industry. She's not.
But this epicenter just had an earthquake, because I want to tell you that I really, and my Richter scale was shaking for all of a month. Because, and I'm like, glad she did it. And you're calling me powerful? Kangana Ranaut is powerful. She caused an entire furor with and a movement that is yet being talked about by prolific members of the media such as yourself. And everywhere I go, nepotism chases me. Well done, Kangana Ranaut. She's really created a huge ripple, and I think I salute her for her power.
Have you picked up the phone and said, listen, let's just bury the past?
No, but I don't have a problem with her. I would very
Have you met her since then?
No, I would love to give her a big hug. Because I don't...
Has she called you? Have you called her?
No, we haven't. But I don't hate Kangana, and I'm sure she doesn't hate me.
And you don't regret your words?
Not at all. Because she's given an opinion, I gave mine. And I think we meet today, we're adults, and we're consulting adults, and we'll meet, and we will hug each other, and I'd probably call her to my next party. I forgot to call her for the last one. I'll call her for the next one.
It was just a slip of the mind, wasn't it?
It was. You know how it is.
Right.
But I'd love to call her because I have a great amount of regard for her as an actor.
So next party?
Yeah.
And an apology?
Why should I apologize?
Weren't you being patronizing?
Not at all. I was not being at all. I was giving an opinion. I was not being patronizing to Kangana at all.
Would you have spoken like that about a man?
I totally would have if he had taken off on me.
Like which man have you spoken like that? Ajay Devgan?
But nobody's attacked me. He hasn't attacked me in a forum like that. If he does, I'll have things about him to say. And he hasn't spoken to me like that ever, the way Kangana did. And she wasn't attacking me. She was blaming me for something which I was defending myself for.
So one of the things about the industry is that a lot of your friendships, relationships, they all play out in the public gaze. And I'm just wondering how suffocating that gets. So Kangana maybe was never a friend, so it's a little bit different. But a Kajol, right? The fallout you have with her. a Shah Rukh Khan whom you had a moment of a phase of falling out with. All of this becomes media gossip. It's written about in the film magazines, in the gossip columns of newspapers. Let's start with Kajol, because there was a time when she was the mojo of every film of yours. She was the lucky charm. And then you reach a point where you're not talking to each other at all.
You know, Barkha, I think enough has been said about me and Kajol. In fact, a lot of it I have said myself. In fact, she has not said anything. I felt the need to speak because I felt the need to just express myself on that issue. And I think I've done expressing myself. So about Kajol, I just have to say that we've had a 25-year-old friendship, and relationships end, friendships sometimes come to a close, and ours has. And that's all pretty much what the status is, and the status will be that. There is a lot of love.
I'm hearing murmurs in the audience saying sad, that's very sad.
It is sad. There's nothing happy about it. I feel sad. I have a great amount of respect and love for her. That will always remain. It'll never go away. But sometimes there's an expiry date to your relationship or your friendship, and we've reached ours. But that doesn't mean it can ever take away from the times we've shared, from the work we've done, from the love we had for each other. And the love I have for her and her family, her mother and her sister.
Even her husband, who seems to have accused you of virtually driving a narrative.
I have no relationship with that man. I have never known him. I never did. And
was he always that man to you?
He was always her husband. He was not my friend. He's not even an acquaintance. He's just a man in her life, and I will always respect that, which is why I will never say anything about them or him.
Shah Rukh you do say much about, and there was a phase when you guys had your own tension. What happened?
Shah Rukh and I, like any really close dynamic or relationship, there will always be, but there is so much love in that relationship. There's so much respect, and there is just an incredible journey that the two of us have shared, that a minor bump on the highway can't even be called a problem. It can just be called the process of life and living. Today, Shah Rukh he's always been more than family to me. I mean, his children, his wife, they're a ground reality of my existence. They are the first call I make for every big thing. When Yash and Ruhi were born, or when they came to the house, it's really pretty much like we're like literally one. Like my nursery's been made by his wife. You know, when I was discussing the naming of my child, he was the first person I called. It was like in any part of my existence or life, Shah Rukh and Gauri will always stand first. It's just the way it is.
How did you deal with the innuendo? And there was very open innuendo, and you've written about it in the book, that there was even a suggestion that you and he were having an affair.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
No, but you had to deal with it.
I mean, it was almost...
No, I'm asking because you've written about it in the book.
Because it was so ridiculous that, you know, when it was people, I was like, when a gentleman asked me, I can't even call him that, and he said like, you know, that, you know, are you
a gay?
Yeah,
that
like that.
Kind, yeah.
And I was like, are you sleeping with your brother? So he was like, huh? How can you accuse me? So I said, and you can say what you want to me, and I can't say the same thing back to you. I said, saying that to me is like me saying the same thing to you. So Shah Rukh is he's my brother. He's an older brother. He's my family. Even insinuating anything else would be it's guttural.
Okay, you're watching the Town Hall, presented to you by Mojo in association with Business World. Please use the hashtag Town Hall. I want to ask you a little bit about how you deal with hurt. And I ask you this because while you make light of the trolls and the hatred, we're all human, and at some point we all feel vulnerable. One is the vulnerability that comes from fear of consequences, which is probably why that hostage video that you don't like yourself for. But have you ever heard a really hurtful thing about yourself that still stays with you? Or a really horrible question, or a really horrible tweet? Because being in the public gaze, people think it's easy and it's glamorous, but it isn't easy. You're constantly under the gaze, under the microscope.
I mean, I'd like to give you a really shattering answer about how I would go into a shell and get depressed and sad, but it hasn't happened, Barkha. I think I feel like I'm strong enough to deal with it now. And I have a great way of being humored by it. In my own head, I'm very amused by half the things people say, because I feel when I really switch places, I feel sad for that person who's writing that kind of crap about me. Because I feel how lonely he or she must feel, how annoyed with the world they are, how unhappy they are. For them to really care about my life and bother to invest so much negativity in me, how negative can you be? You know, that's my feeling. But definitely on social media, if I just scroll down all I have to put up is an image of myself pouting, which I do often because I'm entertained by it. And you should read the comments. You should just read I mean, I'll show it to you. I
have some idea.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, and you have no idea. And then I scroll down and people have laughed at me. They said, how do you tolerate this? Why are you still on social media? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a sadomasochist. I don't know what
No,
it
and
is.
also, why should you give them the satisfaction of not
No,
being
I
on
don't
social
want to be.
media,
I don't
right?
want to run and hide. I want to face and have fun. This is a great place. We make movies. Where else do you sing, dance, laugh, and cry and still be at work? It's a great industry. It's a great job I have. I have to be very, very grateful to the opportunities given to me, which are people really want to read my work, hear my work, listen to my thoughts, and watch my movies. And I think it's a great place. So this is an occupational hazard, and so be it.
But is one of the reasons that you're able to deal with all of this now because you went through your toughest moments as a child? You've spoken about that, you've written about it, that as a child, you were mocked at school, you were called a pansy. Those were tough years.
And that was difficult, and I tried to make changes. I would not advise the same to my own children.
What changes? What do you mean?
Like they were like when I went into to get baritone into my voice or walk, like I was told, don't walk like a girl. I would never say that to my son if he was in the way that you're socially conditioned to think how a man or a woman should walk or be.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do that to my children because they should be who they are and never feel the pressure of conditioning. And I was told, I've so many times, there were people in my school, there were teachers, sometimes students, sometimes people in your building complex who would say, why are you running like a girl? And they don't understand how that line can stick in your head and you can go home feeling inadequate every night. And that is not a feeling I want to give my children ever. If my son chooses to walk a certain way or my daughter decides to do something that is off the beaten path, then that's their life and I will support them no matter what, because somewhere subliminally so did my parents.
Yeah.
It was never brought up. I was never made to feel inadequate at home. All this was outside of my house. And I will always feel very blessed that my mother, who is such a strong influence in my life, never ever made me feel like I was inadequate or I was doing or saying. Like my father used to, like every day I used to dance to a song from Sargam, which was Dafli Wale, but I used to do the Jaya Prada part more than the Rishi Kapoor part. And every night my father, I used to wear a lungi and a kurta because that's what my father wore.
How old were you when you were doing
this? I was 8 because that's when Sargam released.
Yeah.
And my father thought I was doing that dance really well, which was a mixture of Bharatnatyam, Kathak and Bollywood, which I had emulated from Jaya Prada.
Should I ask you to do it for us?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And but I want to tell you, and as bizarre as this may sound to everyone in this room, every night my father would say, dance, no, like you had show this friend, show this uncle. And I used to see the shock on those uncles and aunties' faces that a father was asking his son to dance in the Jaya Prada part of that song. Not even the Dafli Wale, which was the supposed macho part of the hero. I was doing the female part, and he didn't feel it was strange. And yet, because perhaps he was clueless. And then 15 years later, he said, you should become a hero. You have only puppy fat. You lose that, you should be, you know. And then my mother gave me that look like, don't believe it, he's deluded.
How
and
fat were you?
I was very fat, but it was not about it. I can't be a hero. I mean, you know, which part of me looks like I should fight with 100 men?
Now, I'm going to open this up for questions also in a moment, but I do have to ask you one question. There is a certain television anchor, Arnab Goswami, not necessarily my favorite person, but he's raised an accusation against you.
Yes, I read that in an interview.
So let me just bring the audience in context to this, that he basically suggested that his exit from Times Now was partly because you picked up the phone and you called the owners of the Times group and you objected to the way the entire controversy about Fuad Khan being in your film was being covered by Times Now. And he actually said that, listen, you know, this is an example that the media group was not free and I was pressured and this certain filmmaker, director, he's the one responsible for this.
What do I say, Barkha? I feel very important. I feel like if I can cause anyone, I thought I couldn't ask anyone to leave this room. They may not listen to me. I didn't know that I had the power to make someone leave an entire organization. So
But did you complain about his coverage?
Well, I won't get into that. That was conversations between me and
which means you did.
Well, I'm not getting into that because that is privy to what happened between me and whoever. And there was it was a turbulent time. And of course, I was reaching out to lots of people to say that, listen, let's not enhance this issue any further because it's causing damage to my film, which has nothing to do with the issue, really.
But when you're actually named in interviews or alluded to in interviews given by him that say that this director is one of the reasons for my exit from the Times Group.
Well, I have to say that this anchor who has said this thing about the director has made the director feel really good.
Okay, we're going to open this up for questions and please raise your hand so I can bring the mic to you. I see Shivam raising his hand. Shivam Vij is from the Huffington Post. We can take your question right away.
Karan, when I hear you in interviews like this, when I read your articles, I say, hey, this is a sensible man. But when I see the movies, I don't feel like that person is made this movie. There's a disjunct between the Karan we hear here and the movies we see. And in all seriousness, I ask this.
That was an observation, not a question.
No,
My apologies.
but can I build on that question?
I haven't lived. What is the question?
The question is that the
Wha-
Karan
who are the people? Oh, okay.
Okay, you want to explain your question?
Are there two Karan Johars?
Yeah.
I'm Gemini. You do get 2 for the price of 1.
Well, okay, Barkha told me not to be impolite, but let me say,
No,
why do
you
you
can
make
be.
such bad movies?
Look, we just talked about people.
All I'm
You can
saying
be
is
totally
why-
impolite.
All I'm saying is, why do you make such bad movies?
Okay. Maybe you're a bad audience.
Possibly.
But can I build on that? Because when you say, Shivam, bad movies, the fact that these movies are stupendously successful. Most of them, right?
I don't know how successful Ae Dil Hai Mushkil was.
But if I can build
So
on
are
what
you a trade analyst?
Oh,
Or
no,
would you like figures?
I said I don't know.
Good. I don't know is the operative word in that statement.
But is there a germ of a genuine
No,
argument?
see, like Shivam from Huffington Post has just said, he given his opinion. I completely feel everyone should be entitled to their own. He didn't like my film, he doesn't like my work, which is his opinion. And I think that there are others I'm sure who like the film. So I think polarization is
I
always
think there are lots
wonderful.
of fans of Karan Johar here,
So I
right?
think,
Yes.
so I just feel like that
You have
when
a full hall here, so there's
no,
obviously
but
a huge
it
interest
doesn't
in
matter.
you.
And to you, Shivam, I'd say like what I would say to anyone else, that I never get put out by people's negative reaction to my work, because I feel the same for so many pieces of work that people have applauded.
But there's a great deal of sentimentalism in your movies, right? In many of your movies. I think, is there something to the fact that the Karan in real life is kind of wickedly humorous, is edgier, is much more complex, and the cinema doesn't have to reflect your personality. It's like saying books don't have to be the personality of the author. The cinema is more romantic, more escapist, more maudlin, more sentimental, and it works.
And I also come from the mainstream, so even to me, adhering to the demands of the mainstream market is pretty much a part of what I do, because I believe that what I do is a combination of commerce and art. So there is art in it, but there's also thought on commerce. That's what I do. I sell movies, and I have to make sure what I do to make sure that the movie gets bought efficiently.
Which is the movie you're proudest of?
Ae Dil Hai Mushkil.
Well done. Despite all the chaos and the controversy.
I am really, truly, I believe it's the only film that I believe that I made true to what I set out to make. Good, bad or ugly,
in many
that's
ways
opinion.
it was seen to be almost autobiographical.
To me, it was personal, and I really like it. Every other film I have problems with. Like I myself feel like I'm sure people could have, including Shivam, many problems with my work. But
we've got off to a slightly tense start in the Q&A
no,
here.
no. And I said I want to say this to Shivam, that there's really nothing personal, because to me there are people. Somehow I give that vibe that people come and say, "Arey, bade kharab picture banate ho, aur kabhi to koi achhi picture bana lo." And I've heard.
But do
that.
people actually say that to you?
They come and say, "Arey, what is this nonsense? Yeah, kya?" During Kabhi Alvida, I had people who wanted to come and stone me.
Why?
I mean, literally, because they were like, "Arey, yeah, aisa thodi hota hai." There was, I'm telling you, I went to the first screening. There was a lady who had brought her daughter to see Kabhi Alvida, who had just recently had a marital split, and she decided to take her out for an evening to show her a Karan Johar film full of happiness and love, and she said, and then suddenly behind the pillar I saw her daughter weeping copiously, and she said, बिगाड़ दिया तुमने मेरी बेटी का mood, और शर्म करो, ऐसी पिक्चरें बनाते हैं, and all that. And there was a couple, I remember, that when Shah Rukh and Rani checked into a hotel in the film, they thought it was a dream sequence. And when they went through with the act, both of them got up and walked out, and they gave me the dirtiest look because I was standing right at the entrance, and they looked at me like they snarled and walked off. So I've had those reactions.
I actually thought that was a pretty unconventional theme of the fact that fidelity, the construct of fidelity, you questioned that. I think, as you say, in Dostana.
Shivam.
In Dostana.
You saw Kabhi Alvida.
Okay, this hall I think does not agree with Shivam. But Shivam has the right to his. Does this hall agree with Shivam? No, okay. So Karan, feel better, and let's move on to the next question. Shivam's of course entitled to his opinion. Minakshi Das in the front row. Can we get to the mic?
All the movies you make, Karan, are some emotional phases you're going through in your life. That is one observation which I think, I've seen all your movies and I find them really good. I think you are probably the, don't cry.
I cry easily these days. I'm now a father. I get weepy very easily. No, I wasn't crying though.
I think you are probably the only filmmaker, yeah, well, Yash Chopra was there, but after him, you're probably the only filmmaker who can actually make sensitive films. The one movie which I thought was a little offbeat was Agnipath. Why did you make it?
I produced that film, ma'am.
Oh, you
it
produced
was-
the film?
I didn't direct it. I
Okay.
produced it. So there are lots of times you produce films and you dabble in different genres
Yeah.
for a reason, you know. And with Agnipath, it was also a desire I had because my father had made the original Agnipath in 1990, and it wasn't a success at all, and it was a deep amount of like regret that my father had that that film didn't work because it had a lot going for it at that time. And for me, he always used to say, you should make that film again, you should make that film again. It was, and Karan Malhotra, who was the director of the film, decided that he wanted to make it, and we did. And
Okay, I've seen the Australian High Commissioner sitting right next to Meenakshi. I just want a sense of what our cinema looks like from, I mean, you know, from the rest of the world.
Well, that's a really good question. Thank you, Barker, and really great to meet you too. You know, you said earlier that you make NRI-friendly films. If the experience of the Indian community in Australia is any guide, myself included, they're hugely popular. You know, it's when you grow up in a community like in Australia as a person of Indian origin, you have few windows into India. And I think that what you produce is a set of films that are really accessible and really open and easy, I think, to cross those cultural divides for us to sort of connect both the countries we're in, but also the countries of our origin. So, you know, thank you. My mother is a huge fan, but I have to just say this. But I did want to ask you, you know, whether you had thought of doing more films that were set overseas. I mean, you know, there is now quite a large Indian origin population in Australia, and if you were to go down that path, would you consider making, I think you had made one before in Australia, but whether you'd consider making another film and perhaps something with a bit more of a modern twist, speaking to the community there?
well, I actually very strangely have never been to Australia.
We have to fix that.
I think we
Let
have
me
to
fix
fix that. I've been invited to the film festival in August, which I've accepted. It's in August? It's
Yes,
in August,
that's the
which I've
international festival.
accepted. So I'm going to be there for the first time, and I'm hoping to find new experiences there and probably inspiration to come there and make many, many movies. I think we should travel with our films, and not only in terms of viewership, but also in terms of filming them, and it would be an honor.
Okay, I'm seeing Ramesh Sharma at the back, who made an iconic film called New Delhi Times. And I just, come on Ramesh, let's hear your sense from how you think cinema has changed.
Karan, I was a great friend of your father's. He loved me a lot. And in fact, we used to spend a lot of time in Cannes together.
Oh,
And I
really?
still remember you didn't have a room and you were, you know, put in Shah Rukh's room.
Yes,
and he
yes,
was
yeah.
with us and with Yash and
Yes.
together. And, you know, he told me that I should meet you, but I couldn't meet him, and unfortunately
This
he
was in
passed away.
2002, I remember.
2002.
Yeah.
I make a different kind of films. I make serious cinema, which probably, you know, none of the people here would applaud me for, other than Shiva. But I admire the kind of films you make, and it needs a sensibility. And I really admire it for one reason, because making any film, whether it's a small film, big film, you know, a medium budget film, it needs a huge amount of logistics, energy, and you people have a sensibility which is amazing, because you bring in entertainment and you bring in a lot of moolah, and you take such big risks. What I want to know from you is, having succeeded so much in the kind of films that you're making, have you ever thought that I would like to make a small film or produce small films which reach out to a different kind of an audience in this, you know, the world that we're changing? You know, you did something for Bombay Talkies, for instance,
Yes.
that little segment. Have you thought of expanding on a film like that or working towards that?
I mean, personally, of course, firstly, I'm so glad we met, because now you brought back the memory of that year at Cannes, which was actually a big year for us, because we actually sold our film Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham in the Cannes market at that time, and it broke through in Europe subsequently. So I remember that year very clearly. To answer your question about, you know, making like a budgeted, which is what my attempt was in Bombay Talkies. To be very honest, I don't know how to. I tried very hard, even in Bombay Talkies, to match up to Anurag, Debakar and Zoya, because I said, you know, I never get the critics' thumbs up like Shivam, and like, and so
I think I have to get him to do a hostage video.
Sorry, but you're stuck with me, Shivam, today. No, so it was my attempt. I really wanted to make something that was different and unusual and in a confined budget. We were all given 1 crore to make that film, which to many will seem a lot. To me, it was like, and I have to say, not because I've been spoiled by budgets before, but there's just a kind of habit forming that goes, that, you know, when you worked on so many films. Like my attempt at producing, like, say, a film like Kapoor and Sons, or content that we're producing even now, is to kind of make mid-level budget films that actually travel beyond the realm of what we know as mainstream cinema. The attempt is definitely that, sir. But, you know, I don't think I'm equipped. I don't know how to not be large in my cinema.
I think you can. You should mentor. You should have a separate
That's what I'm doing.
division.
So there are lots of young filmmakers that we are actually, that I mentor, and I'm making like more unusual content, because even if I'm not capable, I want to put that out. Because for me, I live, breathe and eat movies. I mean, that's all I do, and that's all I understand. But it's not, I don't claim to be the most versatile filmmaker. I'm not. There is a certain kind of cinema that I don't know how to make. I'm just incapable, and I don't want to venture into something that I'm not capable of.
Okay, let's take 2-3 more questions before we start winding up. Aseem Chauhan of Amity University is right here in the front row.
So Karan, great to be here. And we enjoy your movies and we watch them all the time as a family. Congratulations, you are a father now. You mentioned it. And as parents, we sometimes overemphasize the impact we have on kids, because the peers and friends and also media have a bigger impact on a child and youth than even parents sometimes do. So my question to you is about the impact that you are cognizant of, that you as a filmmaker have. When you're making a movie, is it only about the entertainment, or do you, in a pragmatic and conscious fashion, think about the broader impact that you're having to a generation, or to the nation, or even to the world?
I definitely, when I began my journey as a filmmaker, those were not my first thoughts. I have to be honest and say that it was to set up my company and make sure that I make entertaining films that the entire country will watch and love. You know, when I made Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, or Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, or told the love story in Kal Ho Na Ho, it was never. It was only much later that, you know, when I spoke about infidelity and its ramifications, or when I made a film like My Name is Khan, which actually spoken about the misinterpretation of an entire religion from a worldview, that's when I really felt that I was trying to tell like a story that had social ramifications.
But weren't you making a broad political point there?
I was talking about as I said, the misrepresentation more than the than the lack of knowledge, really. You know, it was bothering me at that time. But it's not something that I make that a film with just an entire reason that I want to change the world with that film. I want to tell the story that I know. Within that, I definitely put out a point that I feel resonates on an emotional level with people. And sometimes we don't understand that that could also be very impactful. More than making a socially relevant point, an emotionally relevant point sometimes can resonate very largely with people. So when I talk about unrequited love, or I talk about infidelity, I'm also addressing human issues. You know, they don't not necessarily always have to be socially relevant issues. Human issues are as socially relevant. And I think to address those which lie unaddressed is also imperative.
I do have to ask you, like, you had what you've now started calling a hostage video when the Ae Dil Hai Mushkil controversy happened. There are others like your friend Sonu Nigam who deal with controversy in a different way. He shaved off his head today to challenge a fatwa on his head, literally.
Look, Sonu Nigam and I have just recently kissed and made up, because he accused me of accused, no, it would be too harsh a word. He actually said that you know, I had disrespected the legendary Mohammad Rafi, which I had not done. If anyone who really saw Ae Dil Hai Mushkil would know that it was Ranbir's desire to be just like Mohammad Rafi. So it was a line that he, you know, saw out of context, etc. And there was a recent event where we hugged, and all's good in the hood.
So you're not going to...
So I mean, I'm going to leave my thoughts on this to myself.
But have you ever thought...
Because I'm not fighting with one more person. We'll give Kangana some time to breathe.
Would you consider shaving your head to maybe make a statement, a peace offering to Kangana? Since that is now a new idiom.
You want me to shave my head as a peace offering to Kangana?
I think you need to make a peace offering to Kangana.
Oh, why should I?
Because I think
there is no war. Why are you forcing this war?
Okay, we're not going to agree on Kangana. Ritu Kumar, a well-known fashion designer, of course, here in the front row.
Hi.
Ma'am, please, yes.
Hi, Karan. There seems to be really a big gap between what we produce in our country and what goes up for the Oscars. Not I'm saying that the Oscars are the only place to go to, but there is a huge gap in reality in the way we approach our films and how we make them to what we see internationally. Would there be any attempt, perhaps with you as your CSR, to try and make that kind of film, which is perhaps more realistic, which is touching more avenues, not only financial? Because I would like to see an Indian film compete at the Oscar.
Well, I definitely think that there has been a great amount of great work that has happened in the last couple of years, especially with films like Nirja or Piku and and even like Kapoor and Sons that are actually more like have a syntax that actually appeal to the more cerebral cinema lover. But they have been few and far between, unfortunately, because the one thing that I think that we do wrong, definitely, and I'm a big endorser of my cinema. I love what we do, and I've grown up on it. It's been the fodder of my existence. But I definitely think what we do wrong is we don't empower the writer. And because we haven't empowered the writing in our films, a lot of our content has suffered. And I believe that as an industry, we have to empower the writing. And when more of that happens, there will be more great pieces of work that will hit celluloid. And hopefully, the representation of that will be on an international level. Having said that, that's not, as you said, the be-all and end-all of our existence or our motive. We have to actually make films that we should be proud of ourselves first before we put them on an international platform. So for me, the Oscar or the Golden Globe has never been the most amazing, I would say, destination to be at. It's definitely a big feather. If you get it, you should applaud it and feel very proud. But I think we need to improve our content for ourselves, not for anyone else.
You're saying we don't have to be defined by the Oscars?
Not at all.
No, I don't think
and I don't think that's what Ritu meant either.
Globe. No.
Yeah.
My thing is
it was just to
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Why is script writing one of the last things that anybody looks at in an Indian film? Somehow, halfway through the film, the connect is lost.
I think that's the problem. The problem is that we've exhausted ourselves empowering the lead actors and the filmmakers, and we've actually not given that kind of time and attention to writing, which is what I think is paramount.
Okay, I have time for only three more questions. Samiksha, I'm seeing here from the Quint. Yes, thank you, Ritu. Yes.
Hi. So as you've seen, the certification board has been on a censorship spree recently, from lipstick under my burqa for being too lady oriented to now Noor for having a burqa that reference in it.
Which was censored out, by the way.
Yeah.
The dutt of the burqa that was beeped out. So the censor board gets more and more interesting. Why don't you guys do something with Pehlaj Nilani? Sorry, did I cut into your question? Was that your question?
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think Mr. Nilali is just pushing?
Look, I won't answer that personally to any one person, because it's not about
the censor board.
It's about, like I've been saying this for a while, that we should be a board of certification and not censorship. I believe that you should certify us, and I think that's the plea that the industry has sat with, all the stalwarts even, to discuss that with the censor board, etc. That let's try and certify, let's have an honest discussion about how, give us, like it is in the United Kingdom, where you have like 12A, 15, 18, you can certify us. And I think, I didn't know about you being beeped out, Barkha. I had no idea about that. I don't know how that missed me.
No, Barkha is allowed, the dutt is not allowed.
Okay, so.
She's like chola without bhatura. Well.
Okay, yeah. So you're just Barkha now. You're just Barkha. So you're barsoing without any dutt there.
I always jump
as I said, that's pretty much my take on censorship.
Okay, last two questions. Poonam, I don't know where you are, but I think we need Poonam to ask Karan as his co-author.
I haven't spotted Poonam
I don't know where even I can't see Poonam. I think
Where
Poonam,
is
please
Poonam?
Can you come in the front?
I've looked for her at least 4 times.
Poonam Saxena is the co-author of Karan's book, but I think from Poonam we want to hear something that Karan hasn't told us in the book or hasn't told anybody yet, which Poonam knows and is going to draw out of Karan. Poonam, please come in the front so we can see you. Hi.
Hello. No, there is nothing to draw out which is not there in the book. I think it's all there in the book. I just have to go back to Shivam. Sorry. And I actually just want to say one thing, that I think a lot of people who criticize Hindi films, I'm not specifically talking about Karan, don't see them. So they don't really know what they're talking about, number one. And number two, I think sometimes we tend to forget that Karan has not only pushed the envelope in many of his films, but he's torn it up and thrown it away. No, I'm looking at you because it began there. So whether it was infidelity in Kabhi Alvida, whether it was in Dostana, the way homosexuality was mainstreamed, whether it was My Name is Khan, or whether it was Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, some scenes of which just made my jaw drop. I think we have to give credit where it's due. It's not only bubblegum and escapist and cute. There are things being said in the film which I think we tend to forget. So that's it.
Okay, I don't think.
I love you, Poonam.
Okay,
It's
now
mutual.
we're going to give the last question to Business World, which has a page called The Last Word. I think Bridge is here somewhere. Yeah, there. Bridge, go ahead.
Hello, Karan. Karan, you are a TV show host, producer, anchor, and you have managed so many people. You have worked with so many people. Our magazine is read by corporate honchos, entrepreneurs who also work with many people and, of course, manage many people. What is your mantra to manage? Mantra to those entrepreneurs?
Mantra.
Yes, the management mantra of Karan Johar.
Simple, delegate and trust.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Karan, can I ask you a boring question?
Yes, sir.
No, I'll pep it up as far as possible. The last time I saw you, in 2013, 100 Years of Cinema, I am Arun Virmani. I'm obsessed with dates and cinema buff, particularly of earlier times. Which is the important, let's say, pertinent date, defining date? Is it the release date or is it the year of certification?
The release date would be the most important.
Okay, I was a bit lost there. So I'm going to allow one last, on a lighter note, somebody who has a question. Anyone here who has a question? Yes, here.
There are lots of perceptions, right, about good cinema, bad cinema. Something I think that really stood out is being able to make emotionally relevant cinema, and it takes a lot of guts to do that, because just because you know, he shoots in exotic destinations doesn't mean that those don't stereotype cinema. It's an expression of his talent. So watch the films, appreciate them. It's okay to have an opinion, but there is no questioning or judging his cinema or anybody else's cinema.
Also, at the end of the day, we are emotional beings. We are made up of energies. I think it's commendable that Karan makes cinema for the soul, which really hits the heart and soul. So Karan, you rock. We love you.
Thank you.
What I do want to say is that Shivam has been outvoted in this hall.
For Shivam, I'm feeling bad for you, Shivam. I do feel that you had a point.
Okay, I have to end with a rapid fire.
Oh,
there is no hamper. There is no hamper.
Oh,
and we'll
God.
make it a little different. You have to say the one word that comes to your mind when I say. I'll give you a word. You have to say the one word that comes to your mind. I'll start with a simple one. Parenting.
Responsibility.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Love.
Salman Khan.
Respect.
Amir Khan.
Respect.
Kangana.
I was going to say run off. And then I said
no,
that.
It has to be a word.
Kangana, nepotism.
Fuad Khan.
Loss.
Shivam.
Love.
Love. Okay.
Deep love.
Sexuality.
Personal.
Courage.
Strength.
Regret.
None.
Dream.
Big.
Thank you, Karan Johar, for being an excellent sport, being candid. I am going to request you all to remain seated for half a second more. First, let's have a big round of applause. I think he's been a fantastic guest.